Welcome to the Truth Unfiltered USA.
Young Americans aren't necessarily supporting communism or socialism in the historical sense. They're reacting to deep frustrations with capitalism as they experience it. But this reaction often comes without a full understanding of what socialism or communism actually meant in practice throughout the 20th century. Most Americans under 35 grew up after the Cold War. They didn't live through the fear of the Soviet Union, Mao's China, or the Khmer Rouge. Textbooks often downplay or sanitize the atrocities of communist regimes, focusing instead on themes like equality or anti-colonialism. As a result, socialism feels to them like an ideal of fairness, not a system of authoritarian control. Young people have seen student debt crises, skyrocketing housing costs, medical bankruptcies, wage stagnation. So when they hear democratic socialism or universal health care, they interpret it as economic justice, not as centralized control. They're reading Marx and they're reacting to corporate excesses and political gridlock. Social media simplifies complex ideas into moral slogans: healthcare is a human right, eat the rich, etc. This emotional framing makes socialism sound compassionate and capitalism sound cruel. Platforms reward outrage and idealism over nuanced debate, so younger generations consume romanticized portrayals of socialism without distinction. Many politicians and activists today use socialism loosely to describe policies like free college, wealth taxes, or universal health care. In reality, these are social democratic or mixed market policies, not Marxist collectivism. But because the term socialism has been rebranded as standing up for the little guy, it resonates emotionally, even though historically true socialism has meant loss of freedom, property, and often life. Communist and socialist regimes in the 20th century were responsible for tens of millions of deaths. Here is a rough estimate by country. China, Mao Zedong, 45 to 80 million. Soviet Union, Lenin, Stalin, 20 to 30 million. Cambodia, Khmer Rouge, 1.7 to 2 million. North Korea, 1.5 to 3 million. Eastern Europe, communist regimes, 1 to 2 million due to political repression. Vietnam, 1 million plus. Africa, Marxist regimes in Ethiopia and Angola, 1 to 2 million. Cuba, over 250,000 to 300,000 due to executions or forced exile. Venezuela, deaths from preventable causes, malnutrition, lack of medicine, 300,000 since 2014. Political killings/state violence, 50,000 plus extrajudicial killings. Refugees/migrants, over 7.7 million by 2025. Poverty rate, over 89% of population. The great irony. The tragedy is that the very freedom and prosperity that allow young Americans to protest capitalism are products of free markets and constitutional democracy, not collectivist systems. They can speak freely, start businesses, criticize leaders, and vote, rights that have historically been stripped under socialist and communist regimes. Combining authoritarian ideologies like communism, Marxism, or theocratic systems such as Sharia-based governance can be extremely dangerous to freedom, democracy, and human rights. The dangers of combining communism, socialism, Marxism, and Sharia law. Different roots, same goal: total control. At first glance, communism, a political system, socialism, an economic system, Marxism, a theory, and Sharia, a religious legal system, seem unrelated. But they share one dangerous similarity. Each seeks to replace individual freedom with centralized control. Communism removes private property and places all production under state control. Socialism limits private ownership, concentrating economic power in government hands for equality. Marxism provides the ideological justification for class revolution, often by force. Sharia law, when used as the foundation of government, replaces secular law with religious rule, where obedience to clerics overrides individual rights. The result is always the same: the individual loses power and the state or religious authority gains it. Under all of these systems, personal liberty becomes conditional. You're free only if you agree with the ideology. In Marxist-Leninist systems, dissenters are silenced, imprisoned, or executed. Under Sharia states, critics of religious law can face imprisonment or death for blasphemy or apostasy. When combined, these systems can create a hybrid tyranny, where the state enforces both ideological and religious conformity. Freedom of speech, religion, and thought, the foundations of Western civilization, do not survive. Communism abolishes economic separation, state owns everything. Sharia abolishes legal separation, religious law overrides civil law. Together they eliminate all checks and balances, leading to absolute authority. There is no independent judiciary, no free press, no private enterprise, and no space for disagreement. Under Marxist systems, the collective replaces family and faith. Under Sharia law, traditional gender hierarchies are enforced by religious decree. In both, women's rights are sacrificed, either for the revolution or for divine obedience. Minorities, especially those with differing beliefs, become targets rather than citizens. Both communism and theocracy depend on controlling information. Propaganda replaces journalism. Censorship replaces debate. Indoctrination replaces education. When truth is dictated from the top, young people grow up unable to question, think critically, or innovate, which destroys progress and prosperity. Young Americans, you live in one of the freest societies in history. Speak your mind. Worship as you choose or not at all. Build a business. Protest your leaders. If ideologies that merge collectivism with authoritarian religion ever gained ground here, those freedoms would vanish. You wouldn't be living in a system that cares for everyone. You'd be living in one that decides for everyone. True justice doesn't come from control. It comes from freedom, accountability, and compassion rooted in moral choice. Societies thrive when citizens are free to think, speak, and create, while respecting others' rights and dignity. That balance, liberty plus responsibility, is what has made the United States and free democracies worldwide the most prosperous civilizations in history.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so we can keep defending the truth unfiltered in the